This is Monstrum. The mention of that name probably triggered some form of nostalgic wave in the heads of at least some people watching this. And to you I say, well done. You know ball. This game was for a time on top of the indie horror space in 2015, with big names like Markiplier, Corey Kenshin, and 8-Bit Ryan playing it. However, in the year 2026 AD, you'd find it pretty difficult to find any new content about Monstrum coming out. So look no further than this video! Monstrum was made in 2015 by a Scottish indie game studio, Junkfish. The game was very unique at the time for reasons I'll discuss momentarily, and this is likely why it became so popular. So please sit back and relax while I take you on a journey back to the YouTube golden age. Monstrum is set on a desolate abandoned cargo ship in the middle of a foggy ocean on which you wake up without any explanation. Not even your character knows why you're there. The layout of the ship is procedurally generated every round, which ensures that every run is different than the one before. This also skyrockets the replayability of this game by a lot. Unfortunately for you, you're not alone in this ship. You are being hunted by one of 3 randomly selected monsters, which each require a different playstyle to deal with them properly. On this vessel, there are 3 ways to escape, some painfully more difficult than others. First, you have the Stranded Deep Life Raft. This is by far the easiest escape route, as it is very easy to find the area that it spawns in, and you only need 3 relatively easy to find items to escape with it. These being duct tape, a chain spool, and an air pump, which can literally spawn right next to the life raft. The downside to this is that the air pump is extremely loud, and unless you've planted a radio across the map, the monster will be coming for your cheeks. The second way to escape is the helicopter. For this one, you really only need 3 items as well: fuel canisters, bolt cutters, and the helicopter key, which everyone seems to whine about being very hard to find, but I find it so quickly in every one of my runs, and it's always in the bridge. With the bolt cutters, you need to open a container next to the helicopter, which has the fueling device thingy that you hook up to the chopper, and begin a 2-minute fueling sequence where the monster instantly knows that you're there and will attempt to break the fueling device. You need to stop it with these convenient steam blast pipes which block the stairs. The final, and in my opinion hardest way to escape, is the submarine all the way at the bottom of the ship, aka the scariest area. For this escape route, you need a whopping 4 items: a submarine headlight, submarine battery, welding kit, and a fuse, which is actually given to you for free at the start of the game, so you can just head down and put it in. The real kicker of this, though, is the escape sequence. The second you activate the submarine, all the doors to the room will seal shut, while the monster instantly spawns outside the room and will try to break down the doors or bust through the vents depending on what monster it is, and destroy the computer that is running the submarine jettison command. To stop the monster from breaking in, you need to push this heavy-ass trolley in the way of whatever the monster is trying to blast through, and I swear to God, it is actually impossible to move this thing in the way of the door in time. This is the only escape method I haven't gotten, and I doubt I ever will, because the controls for moving this wretched trolley are so annoying. It's like driving a bloody cruise ship. The turning is actually diabolical. Moving on to the monsters. First we have the Brute. This inflamed fellow is the poster boy of Monstrum, and likely what you first think of when thinking of the game. Due to the Brute's large size, it is extremely easy to hear his stomping footsteps when he's close to you. However, with that said, it's pretty much impossible to tell where exactly he is, as his footsteps sound the same all the time. He could be a couple stories away from you, or 3 meters away from you, just around the corner. All you'll have to tell is the orange glowing light beam that comes from his eyes. Not only is he the loudest of the monsters, but also the fastest and physically strongest. He runs at the same speed as the player, which means it's pretty difficult to get away from him unless he spotted you from another floor, which would give you time to escape and find a hiding spot. He can also bust doors straight down, so don't bother closing and locking doors if he's chasing you. Just like all the monsters, the fire extinguisher can stun him for half a second, although for obvious reasons, the flare gun doesn't do shit. Next we have the Hunter. She's the unique one among the 3 monsters, and is also the one that has the least backstory. Not that the other monsters have much more. She's more stealthy than the Brute, but certainly not as stealthy as the 3rd monster. The Hunter travels the ship using vents rather than wandering, prefers a wait in the vent and ambush style attack. The Hunter can place down these green egg sac traps on the walls around the ship, and can randomly pop out of them if you get too close, which is especially annoying if you're trying to search the cargo hold, where there's literally not a single wall without these things on them. Another unique ability she has is that she can climb the walls of the outdoor decks and climb over the railings as another shortcut. You can tell when the Hunter is out patrolling, as she makes very identical squishy sounding footsteps on account of her being a walking jelly. Despite being pretty stealthy, the Hunter is probably the easiest monster in the game. This is because she is easily outrunnable, being slower than the Brute, who is the same speed as the player, and although her traps kind of counter this by giving her the element of surprise, the thing that takes away from that is that whenever she pops out of a vent or trap, she lets out a very loud and long roar, which gives the player plenty of time to run and hide. Don't get me wrong, I love the Hunter, she's probably my favourite monster, and her roar is very cool sounding, but she's also the most counterable. However, she does get points for uniqueness and having the coolest design. And last we have the Fiend. This prick. This is by far the most difficult, most annoying, and most scary monster in the game. Guess what this guy doesn't do? Walk. He just hovers, meaning he has no footsteps or audio cues whatsoever. You could round a corner and, oh no, here's a demon ripping your kidneys out of your mouth because he doesn't have any kind of warning. Okay, well that's not exactly true. While the Fiend doesn't make any noise to warn you of his presence, he does make every light in the area flicker very noticeably, including your torch. The problem with this, however, is that the radius for his light flickering is so humongous that it's impossible to tell how close he is. I have plenty of clips of the Fiend just sneaking up on me, or jump scaring me, or I'd run into him because he doesn't make any footsteps. Here's an example.
Michael Myers bikes with like so many of the
Oh my god!
That being said, the Fiend is actually the slowest running monster in the game, but to compensate for this, he is the fastest walking and also has ranged attacks. These include being able to lock doors that you're trying to run through, and also an attack that makes purple tentacles appear on your screen and damages you if you stay in his line of sight for too long, and keeps you in place for a couple seconds, which allows him to catch up and rip your heart out of your throat. So the best counter to the Fiend is to not run in a straight line. Hit corners so that he cannot range attack. This makes being out in the open decks a death trap. Another annoying thing about the Fiend is that he's smarter than his friends, because he will check hiding spots a lot more than the other two, and will hunt for longer if he knows you're in the area. Now that we've covered all three monsters, I'll talk about what makes this game so special and scary. Similar to other games like Amnesia and Outlast, you have no way of fighting back against the monsters, or killing them, other than the limited use fire extinguishers that buy you an extra half second. This defenselessness forces you into a stealthy hiding playstyle, which instantly raises the fear factor as you can't just steamroll through enemies like in Resident Evil. As mentioned previously, each game you load into randomizes the layout of each deck, except for a few fixed areas like the outdoor decks, the escape route locations, the bridge, and the cargo hold. This eliminates the player being able to memorize layouts and speedrun the game with no fear. The AI of the monsters programs them to stay in the area of the player no matter where they are, similar to the Xenomorph from Alien Isolation. It doesn't teleport to your area, but when out of a certain area of you, it will start moving incredibly quickly to your vicinity, so you will never be across the map from the monster, unless facing the Hunter, where it will stay in the vents, which aren't an actual physical place in the game. Knowing this makes the game more scary because you know that the monster is never really far away. The monsters are also very sensitive to any kind of noise. This can be anything from dropping items to opening doors, which are really fucking loud, to performing escape actions like inflating the life raft. This makes you act extremely carefully and feel constantly on edge of alerting the monster. Speaking of alerting the monster, on the upper decks of the ship there are these security cameras that if they see you, blast out this extremely loud alarm that makes the monster sprint to your location, or makes the Hunter pop out of the nearest vent or trap. And on the lower decks, instead of cameras, there are these burst pipes that blast out hot steam that are very effective against the Brute in particular. Sometimes I'll be searching a room and I just hear him scream a few floors below me. Now with all that said, it's worth mentioning in this video that there was indeed a Monstrum 2 that came out in 2022. However, this game was pants, to say the least. This game was a clone of Dead by Daylight and all those games that are like insert horror movie title, The Game. This automatically limited how scary this game could be in comparison to the first one, as I firmly believe that single-player games will always be scarier than multiplayer games. This game kept the setting of a cargo ship and kept the Brute as a playable monster. However, the Hunter and Fiend got the boot, which was a shame, as I think they were the best two monsters. They were replaced by two new monsters called the Bagra and the Malacosm, which are kinda cool. I guess. Anyway, the game ended up failing after being available on Steam for 3 years, and being added to the pile of failed asymmetrical horror game Dead by Daylight competitors. Something you may not know is that Monstrum did a crossover with Dark Deception, Monsters and Mortals, which is the multiplayer, kind of meh version of Dark Deception, which is a great game that I will make a video on in the future. Unfortunately, only the Brute and the Fiend were added as monsters, the Hunter got left in the dust, and the Fiend looks a tad goofy in this game. Now to round off this video, I want to share my ideas for a Monstrum remake. I think that this would be a great idea to bring this game back with a fresh coat of paint. First of all, update the visuals, character models, and animations, as I'm sure all the OG fans would love to see the OG monsters updated. Speaking of monsters, add some more. Have more than 3 in addition to the OGs to make it more of a surprise when you get one. Also, I'd say to add some more map designs, like maybe a hotel or a bunker. That's just, off the top of my head. Of course, keep the procedural generation, update that as well, but have some more variety in maps. I would also suggest to have multiplayer to satisfy the fans of games like Dead by Daylight and Dark Deception Monsters Immortals, but only as an option. The main game mode would still be the classic single player. And that's it for this video. This is the first video I've done that isn't FNAF related, because if this channel does take off, then I don't want to be known as just another FNAF guy. And also, I think this game hasn't been covered very much and deserves more attention, quite frankly. Thanks for watching if you made it this far, and please remember to like the video and subscribe to support my new channel. And also comment your opinion on this topic down below. Thanks, and bye-bye. So look no further than this video. Monstrum was made in 2015 by a Scottish indie game Monstrum. Blah. For this escape route, you need to moving on to the monsters. That was easily. She's more stealth. She's